Today we're gonna make an Ankheg. So this is a bit unplanned and unscripted, so bear with me. But I was thinking about making a monster to backpack role-playing game, or really converting a D&D monster to backpack, since the biggest hurdle with backpack, I think, is that it is asymmetric, meaning that you can't really handle monsters and villains the same way you handle heroes. Villains have their dice, they have no stats, but heroes do. I thought I'd start a series by converting some common monsters. Let's just see how it goes, and I hope I will get some nice comments on the video, and maybe suggestions of changing it. So let's start. Let's not overthink it. I just looked through the monster manual of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition this morning, just to find a fun monster. And one in the beginning on A was, of course, the Ankheg, this ant-like huge creature burrowing underground. So it's a classic, and let's see what we can do with it. And this will be rambling. I will try to think aloud my thought process. I haven't prepared anything else than just prepared somewhere to write, and I have the details from the monster manual, and let's just go from there. So let's start. We have the Ankheg. Villain type, it is an insect or insectoid, maybe. I think we just call it insect. Flavor text I leave for now. And then we have the villain dice. This is like the central feature of a monster. So first I like to look at the size of monsters to determine how many dice the monster should have. So we can see, if we look in the monster manual, it is a large size, from 10 to 20 feet long. That's between 3 and 6 meters. So it's very large, actually. It could be up to huge size if you use the 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons size categories. And medium size in backpack is 3 dice. So this would need more dice for sure. And 4 dice would be something like slightly larger than medium, like a bugbear or something like that. And 5, it's clearly a large creature, something like a troll or an ogre even. So I think that we would try to make the Ankheg a 6-die creature. This means it can take 6 hits before it's destroyed. It also means that it would deal, when it's in good condition, it would deal 3 damage per hit. So damage is equal to half the number of villain dice. So it's quite nasty. If you wanted to make it even more nasty, you could add 1 more die, so it would deal 4 damage, because you round up. But I think we'll keep it for the moment. And then we have the difficult problem: what kind of die? Now I use D8s. D8s are the type of die is a measure of a monster's or a villain's skill, how good they are at fighting. And I would say normally D6s are used for weak or unarmored creatures. D8s would be for more martially trained creatures, and D10s are like elites, and D12s are like a boss level skill. So looking at the Ankheg, okay, in the old days, in the AD&D first edition, they didn't have like attack bonuses. Instead, there was the concept with hit dice. So here it says between 3 and 8 hit dice. What does that tell us? Well, not much, really. I don't think. It deals 1 attack. So this is where I would probably just keep it as D8s, possibly even going as low as 6s, because we come to the armor soon. Yeah. All right. So let's keep it as 8s for the moment. I think this will change. Tactics. It's a measure of a villain's how they fight. This is a charger. This is just basically that it is a melee monster. So it will try to move up to a hero and attack. So that is why it's called a charger. There are also shooters, where they'll keep the distance and make ranged attacks. The tactics is something that it's just designed to give the game master an easy idea of what the general tactic of this villain is. Weakness. Don't know if it has any weaknesses really. No, I don't think so. It doesn't seem to be overly sensitive to anything, fire or such things. So maybe no weaknesses. That's good. Then we can just remove that line. Immunities. Yeah, here maybe we will have something. We can enter what they have, what they are invulnerable against, and I think that the insect type creatures, they should be quite resistant to mind spells or mind attacks, something where you try to mess with their head. I think their brains are going so much on instinct. This is also a trait that most undeads have. They are mindless, more or less. They are going pretty much by their biological programming. But other than that, I think that's enough. And then we have traits. Traits is what we use to give them maybe special weaknesses or powers that can affect them. Burrow is something we need, of course, from Ankheg. We'll give them burrow, meaning that they are able to move underground, and then they resurface at the start of their round or start of their combat turn. So that is quite powerful. So they can move, and then basically no one could damage them underground, and then they can just at the start of their turn they can just pop up and attack. So it's a bit nasty. So it has burrow. Brutal is something where you can give a villain and it will deal damage equal to all their villain dice, not half of them. I think that's too much. I want to keep that to the really, really dangerous monsters. Champion, no. It's more like a boss or character. Climber, no. So let's just read. So they like a diet. They eat like pretty much everything, and they are also flesh eaters. It can squirt acid. And its favorite method of attacking is lying 5 to 10 feet underneath the ground until its antenna detects a likely victim passing overhead. Then it burrows out. So this, I think, will give it stealthy. It will help them. If you encounter the Ankheg, stealthy monsters have a greater chance of gaining the initiative or even ambushing the heroes. So this would work quite well. And then the Ankheg has a chitinous shell, and its armor class is very strong. So it's one of its defining features really seems to be that it is very well armored. And we can simulate this in backpack in different ways. The easier way would be to give it evasive. That means the heroes get a bane on all attacks against it. So they have to re-roll the first success they roll. Or we could use tough, which means that unless it's a crit, or it's an attack that exploits the weakness, like if it's some kind of mind attack, villains take 1 less damage per attack against it. And this is very strong. It basically means that a normal weapon, one-handed weapon like sword, can only hit it if it rolls a crit. Otherwise the attack would just bounce off. Is it too strong? If it's D8s, I think it's too strong. So in this case, I probably, if I'm going with a tough option, then they would feel more like, you know, the arachnids in Starship Trooper. Like you shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and they just won't die. But if we're going with this option, I think we must lower the die, otherwise they would be very, very dangerous, especially for a lower level party. Okay, how about this? It has 6d6 dice. It still deals 3 damage, but it's a little harder for it to hit the hero, and the hero has a little easier time of making a successful attack. It's also a higher chance of making crits against it. So it's basically 1 in 6. With heavy weapons though, like a great axe, they deal 2 damage on a successful hit. So they would at least deal 1 damage if they hit it. I think I like it. Okay. Finally, we have something called special attack. This is if they can do something particular. What I'm thinking about here is, it mentions in the text that the Ankheg is able to squirt acid. And how would we do that? We could make it so that its attack has an ongoing effect. If it hits, it gives the hero a condition. We have the condition called hurt. If a hero is hurt, it has to save it at the end of their turn to not take another grit damage. I think that would be easy. Squirting is something that it says it can only do once in a battle. And doing stuff once is something that I try to avoid in backpack because of the ambition of not having to keep track on anything. Say you have a battle with 5 Ankhegs and you need to remember that this has used it once per battle attack or stuff like that. So I would try to avoid that kind of once per battle or charges for monsters. There are ways you can give them powerful stuff that doesn't happen every round. I use something called action tables, but I try to keep that for very strong monsters or boss-like monsters like vampires or powerful spellcasters. So in this case, I think it would work with, we just call it, it has an acid bite, and here we can describe how that works. And usually it's something like this, that you make a toughness save or hurt. Yeah. So hurt is a condition. There are like a dozen conditions. Hurt is that you take 1 grit at the end of your round, unless you manage to make your toughness save. All right, flavor text. Yeah, giant ant-like monstrosities building colonies underground, close to settled land. Eat, love, meat, cattle, sheep, or farmers. Okay, I could work on that, but it's usually enough. Alright, so we got the Ankheg. This is a dangerous monster. This is something that probably one of these would be a problem for a small party, or even a party with without a lot of strong fighters with heavy weapons. So this is not something to be laughed at. Monsters are dangerous in backpack. It's not like 5th edition. All right. So this is the Ankheg. Maybe we get back to modify it a little bit further on. And if you think this was fun, then I will continue this series and try to convert another monster from time to time together. And I'm also thinking about maybe at some point doing this live, so you could we could have a discussion while we create it. But we'll see. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. See you next time.